Hey, I'm reading Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is the second book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. So far, I am really enjoying it. I will say I was a bit confused when I first started it because I didn't know that it was, even though it's a series, I didn't know it was a continuation from the first book, and I didn't know I needed to remember anything from the first book. I did read the first one maybe 2 years ago, so it's been a while and I didn't do any brush-up knowledge. However, once you get past third or fourth chapter, it does go into another storyline and a different mystery that Pip is trying to solve. So you really don't need to go back and read the first book if it's been a while since reading it, I would say. So I'm at the 39% mark, chapter 16. I'm going to try my best to finish this tonight. I do plan on trying to read 2 other books this weekend and in this vlog. It's probably best that I finish this book or get a huge chunk of it done tonight. On my Kindle, it says I have 3 hours and 20 minutes left in the book. I usually go to bed at like 9 or 10 and it's 8 o'clock now. However, I don't have to wake up super early for work tomorrow, so I think I could stay up a bit. Bear with me, this is my first reading vlog, so I don't really know what to film and what not to film or what to discuss. So it's probably gonna get better in this video throughout. So just keep watching, because right now I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna come back to this later. Okay, bye. Good morning. Last night I fell asleep a little bit earlier than I expected, but this morning I'm now 80% into the book and a pretty big plot twist has just happened. This is what I love about mysteries. I don't try super hard to figure them out, but I still try and kind of keep up with the story at least so I can have hunches. And I will say, with Holly Jackson, I do not know where she is going with the story, but it's tasteful and it works. So I love that, and I'm having a great time. This morning, I woke up and finished Good Girl, Bad Blood. The topics of the book did not feel like it was targeted towards a young adult audience. It did deal with some pretty deep stuff. Topics such as drug use, borrowing money, parties, murder, missing people. But it is important that younger people read that, because honestly, the book felt pretty real and stuff like that happens in real life, which is horrible. It was such a scary thing to read. I honestly didn't know where the book was going, ever. I had some little hunches throughout my time reading this book, but I will say none of them were correct. That doesn't really say much about the reading experience for me. I really enjoyed not knowing what was going on, and anytime there was a little plot twist, I definitely had my jaw on the ground. I'm very excited to watch the show on Netflix. I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna wait until I finish the 3rd book or not. Like I said earlier, I didn't know that this book was really connected to the first one at all. I thought it would maybe just have this, like, Pip and Robbie as the main characters, but it had quite a few people who showed up again from the first book. Honestly, pretty much everyone in this 2nd book appeared in the first one, except for maybe a few more characters that were added in. Because it's a sequel, I can't talk too much about it, but I can definitely recommend the series. I haven't read the 3rd one yet, obviously, but I will be reading it as soon as I can, now that I know that they are kind of connected, and I'm very interested to see where the 3rd one goes based off of this ending. But the plot and the story building was very strong in my opinion, so I can definitely recommend it based off of that. I think I'm going to give this book 4 stars. Honestly, that's all I have to say about this book. Now I have to choose my next book, which is going to be hard because the 2 that are on my radar, I want to read them kind of equally. So I kind of just have to sit and ponder and think about what my mood is so I can make a decision. Okay, I did decide to start Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. That's the sequel to Better Than the Movies. And I'm very surprised that my library got this to me so quickly. I had it on notification mode, and then as soon as it said this is available, I was trying to click it and put it on hold, but it kept saying it wasn't available, even though I got the notification. And then I checked back like 30 minutes later and I put it on hold, but it did say I would have like a few weeks of a wait, and there were, I think it said 11 people in front of me. But then 10 minutes later, I got a notification that said your copy is ready for you. So of course I grabbed that. I would have bought the book, however, it is hardcover and I own Better Than the Movies in paperback and I just didn't want to do that. So I figured that I could just read it on my Kindle or through Libby or the library or something. And I'm really glad that I'm able to right now because it is a new release and I really enjoy reading new releases before I can hear a bunch of people talking about the book, because I am kind of guilty about taking what other people say and letting it seep into my head, and I don't want my thoughts to interfere with other people's thoughts, so I want it to be genuine. I did start filming this clip because Wes is at college and he's majoring in civil engineering, I believe, from the sentence that I just read, and immediately picked up the camera because that's what I majored in. But I have a feeling this isn't actually relevant. I just wanted to say it while I noticed it. So that's my update for now. I'm like 2% into the book. Okay, it is a few hours later and I've been reading Nothing Like the Movies, but I'm not enjoying myself very much. I just don't want to pick up the book. I'm not wanting to read it. I'm getting a bit distracted. And I think it's the writing. It just feels a little bit young, or I don't really know what it is, but I'm not loving the writing style, and I don't care very much about the story or the two main characters. I loved the first book, so I thought I was going to enjoy this one, but I'm not so far. So I'm going to continue to give it a chance and maybe just get out of the house and get a change of scenery. So we'll see how it goes, and I will give another update later. Hello and happy Sunday. Last night I finished Nothing Like the Movies and I did not like it. I feel really bad saying that because I didn't really go in with low expectations, but I did say in my last clip at like the 20, or I don't know what percent I was in, but I just really wasn't enjoying it at that point, and I probably should have just put it down instead of struggling through it so much. If it was a book that like I was actually enjoying with the kind of writing that it had, it should have taken me way less time to read it than it really did. But I never was wanting to pick it up and definitely did not care. I think that it should have been a standalone. The first book was perfect, so cute, loved everything about it, and it just felt very unnecessary to go into the second book, especially because it starts off with them being broken up in college when the whole last book was building up to them getting together. So it really did feel unnecessary to me. There were some topics about mental health and grief and death that were important, but I just think it could have been a different book altogether. Sadly, I am going to give it 2 stars, but just because I give it that doesn't mean someone else may not like it. If you really liked the first book, which was better than the movies, you may enjoy this one. If you were loving the characters, you loved the banter, because there's definitely similar writing. It just didn't feel necessary to me, and I wish that I didn't read it and waste my time because I could have been reading other things. But moving on, I did start 6 Crows this morning. I am not very far in. I'm only 34 pages in, and I truly don't know what's going on. I didn't go into this book knowing anything about it other than I believe it follows 6 main characters who are not necessarily good people. I'm not exactly sure. Right now I'm just trying to figure out all these names because this is a young adult fantasy book and it's in a whole other world. There's a map in the beginning. Here's the map. It just takes a little bit more time to grasp than a romance or a mystery. So I'm giving myself some grace. It's already 3 o'clock on Sunday and I'm only this far into it, but I'm hoping I can maybe get through it today. It's almost 500 pages long, so I'm not really sure that's possible, but I'm going to try, and I will give you an update later on. Excuse the horrible lighting, but I just wanted to come and update that I'm now at part 4 of the book, which is about, I think, 60% in, and I'm finally, well, for a while now, I've understood what's going on, but it definitely took me a while to know where the story was going and understand that. I was just trying to figure out what the world was, get into the world building, learn the characters' names, and this has been probably my first big fantasy book in a really long time, so it's been a big transition for me to use this part of my brain, honestly. It's a lot different than reading maybe a literary fiction book, which is just set in something that feels very real and something I'm used to, but this is a fantasy book, and it's very different. It takes a different kind of brain power, and I'm honestly loving it, but it's taking me a lot longer than I expected it to. It is a few days later and I have finished Six of Crows. I really enjoyed this book. This is the first fantasy book that I have read in a while that doesn't fall under the romantasy category. While this may not be a very complex fantasy to some readers, to me, being new to the genre, it did take quite a while to get into the story and understand what was going on before I could settle in and really enjoy the book. I would say around 150 pages is when I felt pretty comfortable with the world that we were in, and I could just really get to know the characters better and really understand the heist that they were going on. I thought that the writing was very strong, and once I knew what was going on, it was really easy to understand going forward. But while it was easy to understand, that doesn't mean that the writing lacked anything. I felt that the story itself was very strong. The plot really kept me wanting to continue whenever I'd finish a chapter. It was definitely a page turner, and I never wanted to put this book down because I really wanted to see where the story ended up. I can definitely see why this book is so popular. There are 6 main characters in this book, and each of them are complex in their own ways, and I think so many people can relate to at least one of the characters. I really liked that it was multiple points of views, but you're really not just following the character whose point of view you're in, you're also still getting different aspects of the other characters, which made the story move along and it didn't drag it out. As soon as I finished this book, I knew that I wanted to read the next one, so I could definitely see myself picking up the second book in this duology very soon. While it did take me a little bit of time to get into the story, I definitely would recommend this book, especially if you read fantasy a lot, because I think this would come very easy to you. I definitely want to continue reading fantasy books, and I want to see what more YA fantasy looks like and see what really works for me when I'm getting into the genre of fantasy that isn't really geared towards the romance side of things. I still want some time to gather my thoughts, so I'll be able to speak on this book a little bit more whenever I do a wrap up for the month. But I did end up settling on 4.5 stars as a rating. I think that if I reread this book, it could definitely be a contender for 5 stars, but just because it took some time for me to really get into the story, I didn't feel a very strong connection to the characters until further into the book. Now this might be different for some people, and I'm really looking forward to the second one because now I know the characters so well, and I really want to see where the story goes after the ending of this book. So in this video, I read 3 books that are categorized as young adult. I read Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter, and I read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I didn't really target these books out because they're young adult. They really just all were on my radar at the same time, and they happen to be young adult, so I thought it would be interesting to see how this recommended age range for these types of books really jives with me now. I'm 22, but I definitely connected to all of these books in some ways, so I'm not going to completely rule out the young adult category anytime soon. I will say that reading 3 young adult books in a row, it was a lot easier to get through the books quicker. But every book is different, every book reads different. I don't really think that the age recommendation means a lot to me. So maybe this video doesn't really have a purpose, but I did have a lot of fun reading the books that I did and talking about them. I'm still getting used to verbally discussing my feelings about books. I never really do this to the extent that I am now that I'm starting a YouTube channel, so it's taking a little bit of time for me to get comfortable with it, but I feel like as I continue to make more videos and talk about books, it's going to be a lot easier for me to not only verbalize how I'm feeling about a book, but also make recommendations. So this was my first little reading vlog. I had a lot of fun filming it, and I'm really looking forward to the next video. If you liked this video at all, or you related to any of my thoughts, feel free to subscribe or comment, and if there's any opinions that you feel the same about or different, feel free to leave a comment and I would love to read them and discuss. So thank you for watching this video. If you are returning, thank you for continuing to watch my videos. I really appreciate it. I'm doing this for my own enjoyment, but it would make me happy to hear if other people are getting enjoyment out of this too. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. Bye!